During our trip to Wellfield Lodge, I managed to speak to their stallion manager, the quietly spoken but superbly credentialed Dean Puaha. Dean, you've been back in New Zealand now for a couple of years working here at Wellfield. How's the transition been coming from Coolmore in Ireland?
What I find exciting here is there's so much input I can put in to develop, and it's an exciting time. The stud is looking to go forward with the stallions, and to be part of that is amazing. In Coolmore, sometimes you're just a number.
Tell us a bit about your background and how you got started with horses in the industry. You were 16 at the time.
I started not in a traditional sense. I used to play at a fairly high level of cricket, and Jeff Lynns, who employed a friend of mine at the time, had a social cricket team, and they were short one night and they asked me to come along to play. After I played, Jeff came up to me and said, part of the requirement to play for this team is you must work for us. So how about working the weekends? And from there it grew.
You spent 12 years at Coolmore in Ireland. What were your responsibilities there?
During the breeding season in the Northern Hemisphere, I used to run my own farm for them. It was mostly a walk-in. We would have 300 to 400 coverings in a season. And then during the off-season, I got to travel around the world with the stallions.
How did that opportunity, in terms of the employment, come about?
Working for Jeff Lynns for 9 years, 8-9 years before I went there, we shuttled a stallion called Nicolot. And Nicolot being a Coolmore stallion, we had the contact through that.
Dean, obviously it was very different from what you were used to here in New Zealand, the prestige of going to Coolmore in Ireland. What were your initial impressions?
I remember the first day arriving. It was February, which is cold and dark in Ireland that time of year, and I remember just pulling up to the front gates, the pillared security gates, and you don't dream of something like that for a horse stud. And I pulled up there and I thought, what have I got myself into? I felt out of my depth, which starting most new jobs I usually do. You question, are you good enough, have enough knowledge, and at that level it seemed something new, something totally different.
What were some of the biggest stallions you were dealing with over there?
I didn't get the traditional glory boys, but for New Zealand in Windsor I brought down Monjou for his second season with Blackman Alisha. But in my first couple of off seasons I got to break in the yearlings, and with that I had to break in Rock of Gibraltar.
How did the job at Wellfield come up?
It's one of those things where timing seems to be everything. My father passed away 6 months earlier. My mum wasn't doing well, from what I could see in Ireland. So I just felt an obligation to come home, and Libby Bleakley, who was here before me, she was starting to go out on her own and do her own thing, so the opportunity arose, and I come home for 6 months trial for both the farm and for myself to see if I could settle. On
a day-to-day basis, what are your responsibilities?
Ultimately it's making sure every horse on the farm is well and happy. Whether it's coordinating with the staff, assigning what you want done, by when and how, that's the main thing. With that comes the vetting side, the coverings, the organisation that way, the paperwork, logisticals. But yeah, it all has to be done, and I do try and have a look at the horses as much as I can.
So here at Wellfield you're in charge of Alamosa, Road to Rock and Handsome Ransom. Have you got a favourite?
I like the classic looking racehorse, classic looking stallion, and for me that's Road to Rock. When you wake up and you think about stallions, he's what you picture. And New Zealand, they seem to stray a little bit, but what we do best is the more mature staying type, and we've seemed to have gone away from that.
How involved are you with the broodmare side?
It's my baby. I get most of the say in how things are fed, when they're fed, for how long, correction on foals. I try and get through and have a look at them for that stuff, so most of it comes through me. So
your relationship with Bill, how would you describe that?
It's incredible in a lot of ways, and Bill, for most parts, leaves you to do what you want, because this is what I'm employed to do. And such a relaxed and professional man, but also you talk about racing, and his knowledge of that side of it, pedigrees, is excellent.
Dean, you'd never laid a hand on a horse before you were 16. Coming to work with stallions, what do you think it is about you that gives you that affinity with the horses?
Being relaxed, try to be non-aggressive. And sometimes, you have to be affirmative with them. But if you can just be natural, walk along, happy, horses are happy with you.
What would your advice be to other young prospects wanting to get into the breeding industry?
Take the chance to travel, not just to one country, to several. I've been lucky enough to work in 7 or 8 different countries in my time, because you can learn so much more, and the more you know, the easier it makes the job. And if you can stay there, like a lot of people I've worked with in Ireland, coming from New Zealand, they're there 6 months and you don't get a true perspective of countries and people and way of doing things in that brief time. So take the time and enjoy it.
I guess, Dean, you've been in the industry now for 24 years. What keeps you coming back day after day?
I just love horses. I love getting up, coming back home, I get to have my dog here. And, me and him on the quad bike going around checking horses every day. It's just a great thrill.
Is it something you can see yourself doing further into the future?
I know nothing else now. Here is where I am and here is where I'll stay.
With staff the calibre of Dean, the stock at Wellfield Lodge are in safe hands. We wish him all the best over the coming breeding season. Well, it's now time for this week's Dunstan Horse Feeds Pedigree of the Week.
Group 1 star Xanadu is the result of a Sam Williams wedding present. Not that Williams gave Xanadu's dam Forest Stream as a gift, more that he bought her for himself while in Australia to attend a mate's wedding. Bloodstock agent Paul Beamish advised Williams that the Forest Glow mare was available, so he made a point of inspecting her on the trip, liked what he saw, parted with $20,000 and brought her home. Forest Stream had produced moderate performers before she died foaling Xanadu, hemorrhaging while giving birth to the massive filly. It was because of that Williams was reluctant to sell Xanadu, but so insistent was John Gilbert to buy her out of the paddock that he relented. Under the guidance of Matamata's Ken and Bev Kelso, Xanadu has blossomed, fulfilling her Group 1 destiny when she claimed the New Zealand Thoroughbred Breeders' Stakes at Te Aroha last season, before adding last month's Windsor Park Plate at Hastings, both times ridden by Michael Coleman. Elusive city mare Xanadu is Forest Glow mare Forest Stream's only stakes winner, though her Grand Dam India's Dream by Western Symphony won the Group 1 West Australian Oaks, and that mare's half-sister Hasty Departure by Red Anchor won the same classic race 2 years earlier. Williams, who bred Xanadu as part of the Little Avondale Trust, sold out of the family when he let Xanadu go, but he has since bought back a half-sister, Glowworm, from whom his parents Buzz and Susie are now breeding from. This week's Pedigree of the Week is proudly brought to you by Dunstan Horse Feeds.
Well, that's our show for this week. Join me next week where we take our first look at Reliable Man, the dual Group 1 winning sire who stepped into his new role at Westbury Stud. Join me then.